At eRoad, we believe fleet management doesn't have to be problematic. It should be effortless, connected, and future-ready for your heavy-duty operation. With a reliable, accurate technology solution, you can elevate your fleet's performance, improve productivity across your business, monitor events as they happen, and reduce costs and downtime. Get on the road to better fleet management and safer, more productive operations. Go beyond the basics and visit eroad.com today.
Hey everybody, my name's Thomas Wasson. I'm at the Samsara Beyond event here in sunny San Diego, California, and we're talking with the folks at Velociti. I'm super excited to be talking with Ryan here about what they're working on. Ryan, before we dive in, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll get to cooking.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Thomas. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate the thought and content leadership you guys are putting out there at FreightWaves and you on the podcast. So appreciate the opportunity.
And for folks who are a little unfamiliar with what Velociti is, let's give them the quick lowdown.
Yeah, so Velociti is a company that's been in business 30 years. We focus on design, deployment, and support of technology in a host of various spaces. So at this conference, people thinking a lot about fleet-based technology, but fully half of our business is facility-based technology as well. So think about any sort of wired or wireless network in a facility and any sort of aftermarket fleet optimization, safety products that you could put on the fleet space. So we've always had an agnostic stance from a hardware perspective. So what we do is we work with the end users and the technology partners to figure out what's the right solution for the fleet or the facility. And then we help them design that for their environment, deploy it, and then ultimately support it, which is an important step, sometimes a forgotten step, but the post-deployment support, super important step. So yeah, design, deploy, and support all manners of technology.
And in the greater space, this is one of the cooler conversations I've had is I didn't know this. You'd have Samsaras of the world, these technology providers, but when it came to the hardware, it's almost like I know a guy. Mm-hmm. And then so that's what you're helping with a client. Let's say I've got like a large fleet, warehousing, the whole thing. That's where y'all can help step in and figure out what do I need to buy? Because there's like tons of stuff, too many choices it feels like.
Right. Yeah, again, going back to our agnostic stance, so many times the customers are kind of overwhelmed by the number of technology providers that are coming in trying to sell them a thing, right? They like the fact that we work with everybody in this space, so we kind of know what the current products are, we know what the emerging tech is, and we can kind of help fit that to what their operation is, because it might be a combination of different products. Yeah. And then we also do product bundling as well, right? So if they'd rather have one hand to shake and have us bundle the hardware and the services and everything together, we can do that as well. Put it on a deployment as a service plan, right? So draw it out, do deployment as a service to match their service contract, right? So do a true per unit per month that includes your hardware, your services, your support, all that along with it. So backing up 30 years when the business started, our first customer was a technology partner. And now over the last 30 years, it's went to where last year about 85% of our revenue was billed to the end user. So just that as some background to where now most of our conversations are taking place with the end users, and they're coming to us saying, hey, Thomas, we're thinking about cameras. We're thinking about Wi-Fi in our facilities. And they're wanting to know, who are the players in the space? What things do we need to consider? And the folks that have been through these technology adoptions over the years, they understand the importance of successfully deploying and supporting it. So it's nice to continue to work with those clients. We still work with some customers that we had 30 years ago, which is super fun. We're super proud of that.
Is there any cool stuff, thinking about the general changes in technology? Even when I started back in 2014, there were not as many. I heard about IoT, but it was more of we were just trying to get people to use IoT. And now it feels like 10 years, 11 years later, we want to connect the IoT. Has there been any of these bigger changes you've seen being that long in the space and being around?
Yeah, Sandra did a good job today kind of describing like the three different phases that we've been through. When you start with computing, right, 25 to 30 years ago, and then you talk about the connected network, right? So now we took all these computers, we connected them, and then the third step of that being AI, right? So like everyone's talking about AI, wondering what it means for them, but like that is the evolution. That's where we're at now. So figuring out how do you use AI to be safer, to be more efficient. We're using it in our own operation, right? Things as simple as like, picture review, right? So quality control, quality audit, picture review, automated scheduling, that sort of thing. So yeah, AI is what's coming next. But yeah, always new products coming out. I mean, Moore's law is still continuing. So technology just continues to adapt and and evolve quickly. So it's a fun space to be in.
I'm kind of curious as well here. When you're looking at deploying, let's just say I'm one of these companies, I've heard the AI, I want to become a believer now. What do I need to ask? What are the questions I need to ask? Or what if I'm the guy who's in charge of purchasing and I want to get a promotion and impress my boss? What do I need to know?
Yeah. Just continue to educate yourself. Learn, read, listen to podcasts, right? Just continue to educate yourself on it because it's changing daily. I mean, I think what we're seeing today, and again, to go back to Sanjit this morning, we're talking about the changes in AI in just the last 2 years. I think in the next couple months, the next 12 months, we're going to see some significant changes. So you just have to stay on top of it. Probably don't make any drastic moves, right? We had an advisor that was in last week consulting us on kind of how we're using AI and things to think about. I think one of the big things is don't do it in a vacuum, right? So if you're looking to solve a particular problem with AI, look at your whole business, right? So don't just try to pick one product out there that can solve that problem statement. There might even be a good ROI with that problem statement, but is that scalable to the rest of your operation, right? So you want to think about AI holistically for your whole operation. So think about, for us at Velocity, if we can use AI to solve a project management problem statement, that's great, but can we use that same thing for our inventory, right? So we've got 47 folks in a warehouse and fulfillment center, right? So can the same tools that we're using with AI help the fulfillment center in their job? Can it help the sales team, right? So what we've seen people do is make an investment in one platform, one AI solution, but it doesn't scale to the business. So that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give folks. Think holistically about your business, not just a use case.
It's like the exercise theme. You know, the guy only works out his bicep and then he can't like use his legs it's almost like a muscle group for your business. If you just use AI in one thing and do it too much, you're going to like atrophy other parts unless you think about like a wellness.
Right.
AI and tech.
Yeah. So have someone in charge of it. You know, we've got a director of AI in our operation. So task someone with doing that, right? That's going to be your thought leader within the company. They're coming back to the exec team, talking about things that they're seeing. So have someone own it, right? And then get input from different departments. But it's coming. It's here.
Well, with the hardware, is it easier for y'all? Because we're checking out all of the slides and stuff too here. It feels almost like peanut butter and jelly with AI because I'm looking at all these telematics, TMSs, WMSs. I'm assuming that's an easier sell than like, let me use a generative AI chatbot to somehow, make you do certain things.
Yeah, it is. That said, I started out in the business 30 years ago and my father was in the business as well. So I've seen this technology adoption over the time. My dad was actually one of the first people to implement onboard computers back in the late 80s, right? So it's like
OG, yeah.
And he was kind of one of those old school guys that's like, oh, we don't need this stuff. But I was able to watch him and what it did to transform their business. And so you think about how technology evolved just over the last 30 years. It's going to continue to evolve even faster, right? It's like we've got smart trailers. There's a little demo of one sitting over there. So we have smart trailers, but they're going to become smarter, right? The trucks are going to become smarter. I mean, autonomy, right? Think about that, right? So like we're using it now. I mean, Waymo's doing hundreds of thousands of rides a year, right? We're seeing it in the Class 8 space, right? We're doing some testing, running millions of miles, but like what's autonomy do, right? How are we prepared to scale that and again, ultimately support it, right? So how are we able to support the autonomous technology when it comes out? We're doing a lot of stuff in the off-road and in building with autonomy right now. A lot of connected yard operations, right? So how do we take the people out of the yard to be safer and use autonomous operations in trailer movements, yard movements, and that sort of thing, using LiDAR technology. So some cool things going on in that space right now.
I'm excited about that. That's one of the unsung heroes in the autonomy and AV space is the fact that that first mile yard operations, limited areas, limited geofences, like everyone's talking. I love the trucks. I'm a big truck respecter, but at the same time, I think that's something people aren't paying attention to. So you can help these clients and say, all right, well, I know you want to automate your warehouse. You want to maybe use some automated forklifts, or I know you want to have an automated yard dog. That's where your expertise comes in, and you're like, all right, I know the LiDAR companies. I know the other companies. So you're like the fixer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, a systems integrator, really, like we don't call ourselves an SI, but really systems integrator is what we're doing. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on in the forklift space right now with collision avoidance, right? So unfortunately, there's accidents that happen out there. And there's a lot of cool technology in the forklift space right now. So as robust as us going in and doing a full survey of the forklift area in a warehouse and putting in an ultra wideband network, right? So using UWB to create a real-time locating service, right? So RTLS with the UWB technology, putting tags on the employees, putting tags on the forklifts, right? So we can actually do true collision avoidance with lifts, right? So it's cool tech. That's a lot of the big space that we're working in right now, right? But again, efficiency is great, but safety is number one, right? So how do we avoid those accidents if at all possible? So some of the forklift OEs have their own products, and there's some also third-party products out there as well, right? So if you've got a different fleet of forklifts, right, and you're not just with one provider, there's some aftermarket, some third-party companies out there as well. So a lot of cool things in the forklift space right now.
My favorite's like the forklifts that are like Avatar. So I was at an event with those Samsara guys. I was listening to ArcBest.
Yeah.
Put a little human face on an iPad and turned it around because they said that people will get freaked out if it's just an autonomous forklift.
Yep.
So, we're thinking about that. Looking ahead, kind of wrapping things up as well. What do you all see? Everyone's announcing all this cool AI stuff, but what do you think in terms of your radar that folks need to keep an eye out for the next 6 months to a year as we're trying to get through all of this noise and figure out that signal?
Yeah. I think, and it isn't something new, but how do we continue to use technology to be more efficient, right? When freight rates are down, right? Like, how can we be more efficient? Big thing with that is we talk about outer route miles. We talk about asset utilization.
Yeah.
How can we make sure that the technology, we're maximizing the uptime of the technology, right? That's what our VeloCare program does. How do we make sure that the safety technology, the telematics, dispatching, how do we make sure all that technology is working on the assets so you're able to use them as much as you can, right? So let's maximize the uptime of the technology, because as things get tight, we got to be more efficient. We got to be more productive. So that's where we can come in and work with a company like Samsara, right? To set up proactive health monitoring. Let's identify an issue before it happens, and let's make sure that we've got a plan. We've got guaranteed SLAs to get out and fix it. And now your technology uptime's up, your asset utilization time is up, and you're going to be as efficient as you can be. So I would say that, and then again, safety, anything we can do from a safety perspective, right? So let's use the cameras, let's make sure the cameras are up and working, and just continue to focus on the safety out there. I mean, our frontline workers are super important, drivers super important, so let's make sure we're doing all we can to utilize technology safety to help them as well. So that's what I'd say. It's an exciting time, super exciting time. It's fun to be here this week with the Samsara group. I mean, we've worked with them essentially for the last 10 years, so kind of since they started, and it's been fun to see like the product growth, huge customer success, customer experience focus for them. So great sales team. But yeah, they've been a good partner as well. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here with them this week.
And if folks want to learn more about Velociti, get in touch, check out what you're working on, or become a client maybe. What's the best way to learn more?
Velociti.com. Check us out on LinkedIn. A lot of good content on there. If you're here this week, stop by. But yeah, Velociti.com, LinkedIn, best place to find us. Come to Kansas City. We're based in KC. We've got a cool innovation lab in KC. Automated drone flights within the warehouse, cool things like that. So we've got an innovation lab in KC. Love to have people come to KC and check out kind of what's the latest and greatest in tech.
Perfect. Ryan, thanks so much for your time.
Thomas, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's going to be a wrap for this segment, but don't worry, I'm going to have a lot more interviews coming up from Samsara, pre-recorded, not live, at the show floor. See you soon. Welcome to Samsara Beyond 2025. I'm in San Diego. It's been a wonderful event so far, and super good opportunity to talk with some of Samsara's customers about how they're using technology and telematics. I'll let you dive in. So Dennis, tell us a little bit about yourself first, your role, and then we will go into what Maxim Craneworks works on.
Okay, great. So my name is Dennis Collins. I'm the Vice President of Maxim Craneworks, oversee operations and service for Maxim Craneworks. Maxim Craneworks, we're the largest coast-to-coast crane provider in North America with over 50 locations throughout the country. We do all aspects of crane work. When you think of construction and cranes, every aspect of it, is something that we do, from crawler cranes, hydraulic truck cranes, tower cranes, hoist. We do everything from assembling the cranes, taking them down, doing the engineering drawings, everything full turnkey service. And we work in every industry, from the petrochemical industry to, high-rise buildings in Los Angeles and San Diego right here, to new facilities out in, the middle of America.
Yeah. And so when we're looking at that, deploying the telematics and the asset tracking, I can imagine I've seen a few cranes. My first job was a security guard on a construction site. So I saw some guys from like Buckner Steel Erectors and a few others. How important is it to have the asset tracking? Because I'm assuming with these units, not only do you not want them to get lost, but you want to make sure that you're effectively using them. There's not many that cranes around.
Yeah, exactly. Historically in the past, before asset tags, it's a struggle. Especially when you have over 50 locations, trying to keep track of the crane components, staying up on the maintenance, staying up on the serviceability of them, and nothing worse than going to a big crane site, erecting a 280-foot tower crane just to find out that a certain piece didn't get loaded. And then you're scrambling, trying to find it over 50 locations in the country. So with the implementation of the asset tags, the ability to be able to find equipment, know where it is, maintain it, account for it, ensure it's loaded in an efficient manner, and it gets to where it goes, is an absolute game changer.
I can imagine the maintenance aspect, before we dive into some of the savings, it's got to be, not only do you have the challenge of the powertrain, the block itself, but then you also have the pneumatics, the hydraulics. How do you extend them out?
So no, that's a great question. Like with the cranes, and we have so many different variations of cranes, but again, the cranes hydraulically operated, your hydraulic truck cranes, your tower cranes, the ones that we have, they're electric, and all of them have a very extensive maintenance requirements that you have to stay up on, from regular routine PM maintenance, picture your car, if you will, doing an oil change every so many miles, inspecting your tires, and that's the same thing that we have to do with our cranes, but on a much larger scale.
I'm curious about the PMs, because I remember I came from trucking. PM cycles were very important. You don't want to miss them. Do you ever tie your PMs into, let's say we need the engine, the oil change, and a PM, and the crane? Or is it sometimes where you got to make sure that the innards and the other stuff that's getting erected needs a different PM cycle? Is that something the technology's kind of helped you be able to mesh together, so that way you're not having to bring it in for something a month later?
Yeah, so no, that's a great point. And that's, something with the use of telematics and taking advantage of uploading the different operators' manuals, the service manuals. When you are bringing in a crane for a service, you can take a look and see, hey, what else is due? Because the last thing that you want to do is take that revenue-generating piece of equipment, back to the yard to do a PM, send it back out, just to find out you got to bring it back in a week later for something that you could address when it was in the yard. So it really helps you streamline your maintenance process, better manage it, and more importantly, really predict and plan the maintenance better, which allows you to manage how you're ordering your parts, how you're managing your labor to be able to do those PMs, and keeps the overall maintenance costs on that machine down.
One of the cool stats, I want to pull it up here real quick here, is the savings amount. So your company saved over $13 million in maintenance cost in 2024 by going proactively. So let's talk about that. When we're looking at this proactive maintenance, for folks who aren't as familiar with the crane game, where is the biggest low-hanging fruit in terms of these savings? Is it tire-related, engine-related? Where did you all see the most immediate results? And then what were some of the other cool things you learned along the way?
Yeah, so the biggest area we really saw the results, to be quite honest, was even before the maintenance phase, and that's changing the culture, getting the employees to understand that, we don't want to be chasing equipment down the road. We need to, really take the time, look at the maintenance schedules, staying in front of that. And it really starts with your PMs, doing good extensive PMs. Again, just like your car, you maybe have a 250-hour service for a crane, and then you have a more extensive one, at 500 hours. So making sure that you're staying to that schedule right there. You're doing it in a controlled environment. You're documenting that process. And by doing the basics right and in an organized manner is going to help reduce the catastrophic breakdowns that you have, which ultimately are going to impact your customers, and their job site as well.
And that's happened to me all the time. If you don't do the inspections, you don't do the PMs right, it's always an unpleasant surprise whenever it messes up. Talk a little bit about when we're looking at asset tags. You have 28 crane climbers. Talking about utilization. When you're thinking of the crane climbers, are these the most high value assets, or do you want to put asset tags on all of them? Or tell us a little bit how the asset tags have helped improve things.
Yeah, so with the asset tags, we actually have asset tags on about 100 climbers. So climbers are a unique, specialized piece of equipment, with 4 tower cranes that we use. So again, not every tower crane has one, so it's very important that we know where they are, which ones are up in the air, which ones are on the ground, and that we're able to maintain it. With the asset tags, eventually our long-term plan is to have an asset tag on every piece of specialized equipment. But like anything, we want to make sure that we're taking the time and we're doing it in a nice, controlled, methodical process. So, for example, with the climbers, we identified all the climbers that we had in the country. We went through, we made sure that we had accountability, we had good inventory of them, we had the proper naming convention in our system, and then we went through, we did inspections, we made sure we identified, picture 5S process, separating the waste from the good ones, and then once we identified the ones that we're going to keep in our fleet, then we were able to take the asset tags, connect them to our naming convention, put the asset tags on the devices, and now we instantly know where all those devices are throughout the country. We're currently in another phase with it right now, putting them on all of our man baskets, our material baskets, our expandable spreader bars. Why is that important? Because it's not only tracking the individual item, but it's ensuring that it's built in the system and that we have all the engineered drawings, that we have all the certificates for those pieces of equipment. So not only do we know where it is and that it's on a job site, we can ensure that we have all the proper paperwork documentation and that the inspections are current before we put them on the hook of a crane and service our customers.
Are the climbers the very large ones you see kind of jutting into the air, and they just kind of get built as the thing gets built?
It is one of those sections. Picture the vertical sections right there. Yeah, so it's part of the vertical section of the tower crane.
So that's one of the challenges, because you're going back looking through every single piece, all this like types of scaffolding, and you're like, do I want to keep this? Is this worth an asset tag? Is it near the end of its life? And then you're like, am I going to associate this piece with this specific tower climber that I'm using, or is this one that can like go and be interchangeable, I'm assuming?
Exactly, and that's one of those pieces that can be interchangeable. And to your point, part of the process too, and why you want to make sure that you do it right, is you want the right qualified folks looking at the equipment and really making that decision as to, yes, this is a good serviceable piece of equipment, it still supports the needs in the fleet, or it's beyond its useful life right here. It's time for us to probably properly dispose of it and replace it appropriately in the fleet. So you want to make sure you have the right people involved in that process. You don't want to just put an asset tag on to assure you can track for something if it's something that's probably not even worth tracking.
Yeah, and also you want to find out who's responsible. Now we have the asset tag. Now it's your job to check the asset tag. Is it charged? And then if it screws up, I can find somebody to yell at.
And the other piece is now with the asset tags and built in the system, you can track the maintenance on that. So if I have 5 asset tags that are due for a PM, for a maintenance or inspection, I know exactly where those 5 are, whether it's on a job, whether it's in a yard. So it helps you schedule routine maintenance in a more timely manner and also keep up on it.
And big congrats as well. You guys were the recipient of the Most Innovative Workforce Award. And so as you're looking at the worker experience, one of the cool things they mentioned was wearable devices. And so I can imagine, on a crane, having a wearable device is important, because as you're building the cranes and operating them, some folks may be up. Talk about the event a little bit and what some of your thoughts are in terms of, is it like a shopping list? You're like, dang, I'm going to get some of this stuff. Or is it stuff that you're already kind of looking ahead to deploy in your operations already?
One of the great things to come into the convention every year at Samsara is part of the excitement is what's next. And, every year they kind of outdo themselves with coming up with something bigger and better. The wearable devices, wasn't expecting to see that. It was really impressive to be able to see that. And again, the reason why we come to these events is at the end of the day to invest in our organization to ultimately protect our most important asset, which is our people. And that's another example of, a resource that you can put on your employee to help keep them safe. And so they know that even though they may appear that they're on the job site alone, they're never actually alone. There's always support and resources there. As far as the thing that I'm really excited about, excited about all of it, but I really like the integration of AI into the DVIR process. It goes back to what we spoke about earlier. The most important aspect of your maintenance program is your daily inspections, your PMs, brilliance in the basics. And, I look at that as an employee that's in Boston or Philly in January, February when it's snowing. Are they going to take off their gloves to write out a discrepancy with that asset in the cold weather? Or are they just going to say, hey, it's good enough and get in it? Whereas now with the integration of the AI interface with the DVIRs, they can just talk right into it, and it's going to record a very good description of what's wrong, and you're not sacrificing speed, safety, or anything else, and it's going to really help the lines of communication between the employees in the field and the service folks in the back office.
I think that's one of those underreported things that it's so simple and you don't realize it until you see it, the voice-activated transcription. Because I have the same issues with drivers in trucking fleets is they wouldn't fill out their DVIR. They Christmas tree it. And then their tire explodes and they're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, well, you ran into a car and they're suing us now.
Yes.
So talking about from accidents and safeties and claims, it kind of all builds in. Blocking and tackling with DVIR helps you on the back end in case somebody decides to change lanes when you're transporting a crane.
As I always say, read the investigation backwards. From the DVIRs to your maintenance schedule, no matter how good you are, you always got to try to challenge yourself to get better. And that's one of the reasons, coming here each year, embracing and learning the new technology that's being integrated, because we had a good, successful year, saved $13 million, significant reduction in accidents and incidents, but we're not satisfied. We want to come back, see what can we learn, what can we integrate to our daily operations, again, to ultimately, not just for the success of the company, but we want to see our employees going home every day. And we want them to know that they work for a company that values their safety, their professional development, and we're going to make an investment not just into the organization, but for them.
Now, final thoughts as well. One of the cool tech that I saw was cameras on the trucks for these various types of computer vision. I can imagine being on various job sites, tens to hundreds of subcontractors. Is there an advantage as well putting little cameras on the crane so that way you can say, look, my guy did everything right. He went off for a lunch break. You guys ran into my crane or something. Is that kind of one of those things where you're not only protecting in transit, but you're protecting on the site?
Absolutely. I mean, you can add more cameras to the crane. And the nice thing it does, and we've seen this in exoneration with law enforcement when we've been involved in incidents, and the other vehicle has their version. And it doesn't need to be confrontational. We're just able to, hey, we understand your concern, but here's what really transpired. It's on camera right here. So, you're able to see your forklift operator back into the crane, So, and it just, it helps resolve issues without creating unnecessary confrontation on the job site. Yeah. And it just, again, it lets your employees know that you're valuing their safety and it's a resource to not only protect the company, but to protect them.
Perfect. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for your time as well. Folks want to learn about Maxim, check it out, see what you guys are working on. What's the best way to find out?
So I recommend you go on our website, MaximCraneworks.com. Again, we service over every state in the country. We have the ability to provide crane support to. We have an unmatched safety record. We have the largest fleet of cranes in the nation, and there's no project too big or too small. So we look forward to partnering and taking advantage of every opportunity we can.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
That's going to be a wrap for this, but stay tuned. I have a lot more content coming from Samsara Beyond.